welcome back to part 2 of our series. I'm Jana Bernard, and I'm joined by Stephen Beer. Both of us are former Frenchwoods campers, and so excited to be talking again with Ron and Beth Schaefer, co-owners of Frenchwoods Festival of the Performing Arts. We will also be featuring Stephen's incredible book, Your Child's Career in Music and Entertainment, The Prudent Parent's Guide from Start to Stardom.
Let's begin.
Ron, it's nice to speak with you again. I'm Stephen Beer. I was a camper at Frenchwoods, a parent to 3 sons at Frenchwoods. I authored the book, Your Child's Career in Music and Entertainment, and you were very helpful in the preparation of this book. And so it's a pleasure, along with Jana, to ask you some questions about best practices for aspiring professional artists and their parents. I want to just start off by saying, in the 50 years in which you've owned Camp Frenchwoods, you have seen a lot of very successful young people. You've watched young people develop, and some of them turn into professionals. And so I wanted to know if perhaps over the years, in your experience, you've been able to observe some best practices. Ron, what does it take for an aspiring young professional to be successful? What are the common traits? We want to discuss the habits of those who you've seen have gone on to reach their goals.
Probably the most important is utter determination, because it is such a difficult field to get into that if you don't have a stick to it in this that is incredible, you shouldn't be doing it at all.
And that's a certain discipline? Would you say that that passion is required for that kind of determination to really go the lengths required to be successful?
I think so.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that passion is incredibly important, but I also think that for a child to be empowered is incredibly important. To imbue that confidence in a child that they can do this for themselves is just a really vital key to the success for the kids.
Well, there are all kinds of lessons learned at camp. In between the lines, isn't it possible that aspiring artists as campers can learn about professionalism?
Sure it is. Absolutely, they can learn professionalism. But you have to determine what's important in professionalism that to define the term. You have to be totally dedicated to what you are doing. You have to be able to go for it over and over and over again despite failure. And it is 1 in a billion that just walks in and takes over. And most people have to keep at it and keep working at it and educating themselves and getting their background in so that they know what they're doing when the time comes.
I think that's such a good point that you were saying, is that Frenchwoods has taught all of us, including myself as when I was a camper, that it's not just passion, but perseverance and persistence that Frenchwoods teaches us in the arts. And I think part of the professionalism aspect that you taught me and so many of my friends, Ron and Beth, is the kindness aspect, right? Like how to be somebody good to work with, in addition to having those skills like the musicality and the theatricality. It was also teaching us how to be a good team player. So can you talk more about how the musicals and the shows and the different activities at Frenchwoods support teamwork and encourage cooperation?
Any director at Frenchwoods that's worth his salt makes it very clear to every member of the cast that the least important member of the chorus is just as important as the lead of the show, because a show can fall apart on the basis of the person who you never expected to be.
So it sounds like practice and preparation play an important role in the success of an aspiring professional.
Yes, I think more than anything else, participation. I think that an aspiring actor, actress has to continually perform over and over and over again in as many different venues as possible, and get the background that they need in order to go on and make it a career. And that I think it's important that they get an education, a historical education too, that they, when they're approaching a role, they understand the role.
Yeah, I think that was such a great part of our Frenchwoods education. Was I remember before shows that I was either assistant directing with Beth as a staff member or in Ron shows as a camper. You would sit down with our cast and you would talk about the history and what was happening in society at that point. And it was giving us the dramaturgical, historical context for the shows. So we were becoming smart actors as well as just talented actors. And you were giving us a deeper meaning to what we were saying rather than just the performance aspect, which was really cool. Can you talk more about some of the people you've brought to Frenchwoods as role models to show us as campers kind of this career? Because I know I got to see a lot of very cool performers when I was at Frenchwoods who came to work with my fellow campers.
And there are a lot of role models, a lot of them. I think Brian Kite is a role model for Frenchwoods. Brian is the dean of drama at UCLA, and he comes to Frenchwoods every year, and he works with the kids. And he's got this wonderful position, and yet every summer he comes.
Beth and Ron, what would your advice be to parents who are wanting to have their children get into the performing arts and come to Frenchwoods?
For me, I think that a parent wanting to get their child into the arts needs to expose them to the arts. You know, I mean, Frenchwoods is an excellent exposure to the arts because they really get to dive in, and it's there are no barriers to entry, which I think is really valuable. Again, it's an environment where the kids are empowered to do the things they love. And I think that, you know, wherever a parent chooses to garner that exposure for their child, you know, bring the child to shows on Broadway, bring the child to the movies, bring the child to concerts, you know, get that exposure. And if that's a thing that child loves, they're going to ask for more. You know, I mean, that's been my experience with my own child. You know, but I think that the real, you know, invisible power of Frenchwoods and other programs where, you know, where a child gets to choose what they want to do is it allows them to find where they will succeed and to challenge themselves to go back in when they fail. And like I said, there's just no barrier to entry. There's the kids can go in and they can play and they can have a great time. And when all is said and done, they, you know, that child can decide, you know what, I'm no longer afraid of public speaking and I'm going to go be a lawyer, or I'm going to go be a CEO, or whatever it is. or they may decide that they're really going to do this thing. And either way, I think it's incredibly valuable.
So, Ron and Beth, what what role have you seen parents play in the success of their kids? Oftentimes we see young professionals soar, and I wonder, in your experience, have you seen parents play a constructive role in that success?
Well, parents have to be supportive, but they also cannot they cannot be stage mothers. They can't be Mama Rose, because that's doomed to failure. That's going to turn every child off eventually. Maybe
you go
maybe
from
what
a place
happened-
you go
Go
from a
ahead,
place
Beth.
of empowerment to a place of control.
Yes.
And I think that's what you want to avoid.
Occasionally, you might see a parent come just a little early for Parents' Weekend and stay just a bit late for that. There's some hallmarks that you might see along the way, and those might be cause for concern.
Yeah. Or when you have a child that's very talented, and the parent sends them to Frenchwoods and then calls every other day with, child has an audition, I got to take him out of camp. Child has this, and that makes no sense. If the child is at Frenchwoods, they should be left there so that they can be immersed and be involved in everything that's there. A long shot audition is not as valuable as the participation with your peers.
Occasionally, do you see parents? Do you see children who struggle to please their parents, and is that a good thing?
No, it's not a good thing at all. Children should be doing this because they love it, not because their parents love it.
Once these campers get to Frenchwoods and the parent makes the decision to send them to Frenchwoods on this incredible journey, I know we talked about the parents. Can we talk about the big brothers and the big sister aspect that you get at Frenchwoods once you get there? Because maybe the parents leave, but what I found in my experience was you kind of get this Frenchwoods family. Can we talk a little bit about the Frenchwoods family feel once the child gets there, once the parent drops them off?
The kids become supportive of each other, no matter their age. Look, I remember Scott's bar mitzvah, and at his bar mitzvah, he had kids there. They were 18, 19, 20 years old, and kids there as young as 7 and 8, because they were all there and they were all supporting him no matter what. And this, of course, is not theater, but that's the attitude that these kids take.
Yeah, I remember as a young camper at Frenchwoods, I was auditioning for the improv troupe at 12 years old. And one of the older campers, even though I was a 12-year-old girl auditioning for the improv troupe that was mainly high schoolers at the time, one of the older campers gave me a chance, and he said, let's take this girl into improv troupe and let's kind of give her a chance. And I think the big brother, big sister aspect of Frenchwoods makes these kids feel so much more empowered because everybody's trying to include everyone else. And then you grow up to be the really cool part of Frenchwoods, I think, is you have these CITs and supers. And then the younger kids grow up into these roles that become leaders at camp. And then they get the opportunity to kind of return the favor to younger campers. And then you become a super and you're taking on a little sister or a little brother under your wing. And it helps you branch out into these different activities and try different things at camp.
Talent can go just so far. Attitude really exceeds talent in this case.
How about perspective? Sometimes it can be tough sledding in the entertainment business where you're auditioning and frequently you don't get the part that you practiced for, and it can be disappointing. What's the role of being resilient? Being resilient and having perspective, is that helpful?
you have to be prepared for failure. You have to accept failure, because 9 out of 10 times you're not going to get the part. You're not going to get what you thought you were going to get. I won't tell you who it is, but we had a boy at camp for many years, a very well-known actor's son. And the boy was very talented and loved the theater and really wanted to succeed in the theater. He walked around camp telling everyone that he was going to get a particular role, that this was his, it was a lock. No one was going to stop him from getting the role. I was directing the show. He got the role, but I didn't call him back. I let him get called back by every other director, and I did not call him back to teach him a lesson. And I think he learned a lot by that day. I think Beth knows who I'm talking about.
Ron and Beth, so many families come back to Frenchwoods. Or if you were like me, you went for one session and then you screamed the rest of the summer until your parent let you go back for another session at the end, for an encore session. But I think like the magic of Frenchwoods keeps us all coming back, and this beautiful community that you've both created keeps us all coming back. Can you speak to parents? Why is it that families keep coming back to Frenchwoods, in your opinion?
I think that the atmosphere is so supportive that when the kids come in, they feel this and they feel that they can succeed there. You reminded me of an incident that we had where one of the kids had a mother with cancer, and the kid was, the mother was not going to survive the cancer. And the boy went to camp. Mother and father wanted the boy to go to camp. He was supposed to go sessions 2 and 3. He was there session 2. At the beginning of session 3, a few days in, his mother died. His father called me, and we were having a Broadway trip. I took the boy on the Broadway trip. His father met us at the theater. We never told him anything until his father picked him up. So he was told, he went home with his father. 2 days later, I got a phone call by both the father and son saying, "Can I come back to camp for 4th session?" And of course, we said yes. And he came back to camp for 4th session. He was 12 at the time. He stayed at camp until he was 17.
How about that?
That's incredible.
What a great, what a constructive role the camp has played in so many lives, especially that young man. Ron, there have been so many lessons learned, and by the campers, and it's really good to hear from you regarding the common traits and the habits that you see in successful young people. And it's wonderful that you can present those practices without hammering it home and telling people, but you can through your skilled staff and your leadership, you can really present that, manifest that through your actions. And I think that's a wonderful takeaway for parents looking to send their kids to a constructive place where they can experiment, they can experience, they can learn from doing and learn from their peers. And I know you're modest, but I want you to give. I really do want you and Beth to take a few minutes to give yourselves the recognition that you deserve for creating such a positive environment. I've seen it as a parent. I saw it as a young person, and every time I meet in my in a business capacity as an industry professional, I meet a former Frenchwoods camper. There's always, I always recognize an edge, a confidence, a poise, and I think it's really a tribute to you that every person that has that experience comes out a better person, whether or not they are an aspiring professional or just there for the fun of it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, let me tell you another incident that happened at camp.
Please.
We had a family, a Long Island family actually, who had a son and daughter, and the son was the younger of the two. He came to camp at age 8. She was 11 or 12. At age 11, he developed a brain cancer. And it did not look good for him. He came to camp at age 12. The parents, I think, called me every day. They never once called him. They called me every single day. He went through the entire summer with a smile on his face. 6 weeks, he was very happy to be there. He turned 12 at camp and went home at the end of the 6 weeks. As he was leaving camp, he insisted that his parents register him for the next summer, which they did. I was in touch with the parents. To make a long story short, he was convinced he was coming back to camp, spoke to me, I would think right around Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly, and died just before Christmas. I never got over those parents. I thought that they gave him the greatest gift that they could have ever given their child.
Wow.
We've talked so much about how Frenchwoods creates incredible performers and an incredible performing arts experience for these children who have a passion for the arts. How does Frenchwoods also encourage these performers to have good values as people? And how does the Frenchwoods community encourage that?
Beth.
Well, I mean, I think we've talked about how the only award we give at camp is for citizenship. You know, it's not for performance, it's not for winning, it's not for any of that. It's for citizenship, you know, but I think that we put a real premium on the idea of the Frenchwoods audience, you know, almost above the quality of performance. You know, the audience has to be supportive. You know, and the kids know that they may not be on stage tonight, but they very well might be tomorrow. So they need to behave the way they want their audiences to behave. You know, so we really try to put a real high value on all of that. And I think that makes a huge difference. You know, circling back to something we were talking about a little bit earlier, we were talking about how our peers support each other and what that can do for each other as the kids grow up and all of the rest. You know, and it really made me think of, you know, of course we have a number of artists come up and talk to kids and whatnot. And I remember when, again, we had Jason Robert Brown up, one of the early visits he made, and somebody asked him that very question. And his response was, you know, what I guess the question at the time was, how do I make it? What do I do? And his response was as simple as look around you. The people sitting next to you are going to be the people who are writing the musicals and producing the shows, and, you know, be kind, network now. These are going to be your friends because, and this was Jason speaking, because when I did my first off-Broadway show, who did I cast? I cast Andrea Burns, who was a friend of mine from camp. And I cast, you know, so those things I think are just so important, because networking anywhere is networking. And in a place like Frenchwoods, you're talking about a lot of like-minded artistic individuals, some of whom are going, you know, I mean, some of whom are going to do this. And there is a power in that network of people who are like-minded, who have a similar history. And I think that's a tremendously powerful thing.
The Frenchwoods tribe is very real. The Frenchwoods family feel is very real. And I think knowing that when you leave Frenchwoods, you don't just leave with, like you were saying, the skills that it teaches you, but you leave with a network and a family that supports you even after Frenchwoods. And I've seen that in my own life and my friend's life. And then last question for you both is, when kids walk away from Frenchwoods and when parents walk away from Frenchwoods, what are some of the main things that they leave with, do you think? That I guess
Well, we hope we leave. Well, we hope that they leave with confidence. We hope that they leave with deep friendships. You know, that's certainly our goal.
Ron, when campers and parents walk away from Frenchwoods, what do you hope that they leave with, in addition to confidence and friendship?
Camaraderie, love of the arts, an ability to expand your own horizons.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much for joining us today. I'm so thankful that I got to be a camper and a counselor at Frenchwoods, and I know so many other people are. So thank you for letting me be a part of the Frenchwoods community, and thank you for sharing the Frenchwoods community with everyone else.
All right, thank you.